Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm a wellness blogger, motivational speaker, and author of a guided wellness journal. But as most people don't know, I also am a licensed physical therapist assistant and have been giving little nuggets of advice that people have mentioned have been really helpful and they wanted a full YouTube video on it. So today's video is all about focusing on core strength, what it's used for, the best way to train it, and how it can help you be overall more functionally balanced, coordinated, all of the good things that come from a strong core. So let's get started. Before we begin, it's worth mentioning that I'm actually in the process of healing my back. Currently, I'm using this cushion to sit on. It looks like a tooth, and this part right here is the cutout of the back where I sit, so that the pressure falls on my legs and is alleviated from this little area right near my sacroiliac joint / coccyx, which if you know anything about anatomy, or you could type that into Google, you'll see the part of the back that's in. So if you're newly postpartum or you have some sort of SI dysfunction or coccygeal displacement, I found this on Amazon for like $25. It is Everlasting Comfort brand and it has a lifetime warranty. So the first thing I want to go over is proper breathing. You cannot work your core unless you can breathe the right way. So you can breathe two types of ways. You can breathe from your chest, or you can breathe from your abdomen. You see how my chest didn't really move the second time? What I'm doing is I'm inhaling like I'm blowing up a balloon inside my abdomen. So my abdomen's gonna expand, and then I'm going to like de-puff, or like I'm blowing out a balloon. As you're exercising, no matter what muscle you're exercising, what kind of exercise you're doing, how you breathe plays a humongous role in if you're actually working the right muscles or not. I'm gonna use my bicep for an example because it's an easy one. We're gonna do maximally shortened and maximally elongated. So watch the space in between my fingertips. Maximally shortened, maximally elongated. You want to breathe out as you shorten, and you want to breathe in as you elongate. So ready? You see how that works? You're breathing out, pursed lips with your abdomen while your muscle is maximally shortened and or contracted. The reason that I say and or contracted is because with the abs, it's gonna be slightly different, where the muscles are gonna be maximally contracted, but they're also going to be lengthened. So the core is actually everything from your shoulder down to your hip, and it's designed to stand stable while your limbs are moving. So while your arms are moving, while your legs are moving, there are many different muscles comprised of the core. Some on the outside, we call it superficial, which is closest to the surface, and many that are internal abdomen structures. Just to name a few so that you're familiar with some terms, the traditional ab muscles that you see on somebody's stomach, that muscle is called your rectus abdominis, which you can sometimes see on people, sometimes not, but regardless, they're there. You have your diaphragm, which as we know helps you breathe from the abdomen. It's a very, very powerful muscle, helps you to project your voice and talk to a crowd and sing and all of those good things. You've got your transverse abdominis, transverse meaning horizontal, which is real low down on your stomach, and it's the muscle you feel when you cough, when you use the restroom, when you push, when you throw up. You also have your obliques. So something interesting is that your external obliques, what we think about when we look at people, when you can see their beautifully striated muscles showing, and it looks like lines that do this. They kind of like go in from the outside below your ribs. Those are actually one of two sets of oblique muscles. So those are actually your external obliques, the ones that you can put your hands in the pocket. And you also have your internal oblique muscles that go the opposite direction. They go from hip up to ribs. Each muscle is generally named for the location that it's in, how many heads the muscle has, like bicep is 2, tricep is 3 heads, the way the muscle fibers lay, or what the actual function of the muscle is used for. So you can trace them back to Latin root, and they're all named for a specific reason, which is a really cool fact I learned in college that I did not know. To begin, we're gonna start with the most basic move of all exercises, which is everybody's favorite, the plank. As always, I'm filming from my home, so I rolled out my yoga mat. It definitely will help your feet with the traction of the mat to not slip. All right, so in order to get your plank position down, I want you to start on your hands and knees in the tabletop position. And I want you to keep your hands directly underneath your shoulders and your knees directly under each hip. And we're gonna start with a basic yoga move called a cat and cow to find what we call neutral spine. You wanna inhale as you arch your back and look up toward the ceiling. And then you wanna exhale as you tuck your hips under, tuck your chin toward your chest. And you wanna do this nice and slowly, about 5 or so times. You're just sort of loosening up your hip joints, your shoulder, your neck joint, a little bit of everything. And then once you do them enough, you want to find the middle position of your back, somewhere halfway between maximally arched and maximally hunched. Once you find that neutral spine position, I want you to dip down onto your elbows so that your elbows are underneath your shoulders. You're going to extend one leg at a time. And you're going to come up onto your feet, making sure your back is as flat as possible with your hips tucked. You also want to look straight down at the floor. You never want to strain your neck by looking up. So look straight down at the floor. You also want to feel a little bit shaky in the core area because that means you're doing it the exact right way. So the harder it is, the more correct you're doing it. And something I like to do while I'm here is sort of shift forward and backwards as it just gives me something to do so I'm not stuck in this painful position. So you want to take deep breaths while you're here. Squeeze your core. Keep everything super tight. And hold for as long as you can. I typically try to hold it for 1 minute, and I'll do that 3 or 4 times a day. Something I often do is I'll start talking out loud, or I'll put on my music and just start singing as loud as possible, because when you're talking and when you're singing, that helps you to breathe naturally, breathe the right way. You also want to keep the core nice and tight. And when I say keep it tight, I don't mean suck it in like that. I mean keep it tight like someone was gonna throw a ball at your gut. Ugh. That motion right there, that's tightening up the core in the way that I want you to do that. So another thing I'm gonna show you is a couple of plank variations. So you can most definitely start on your knees as a beginner here. And while you're on your knees for a beginner, you wanna make sure the weight is shifted over your elbows and not back onto your knees. So keep the weight shifted forward, keep everything super tight, keep your shoulders down and away from your ears. So you don't want to look like that. Another variation you can do if you have very strong wrists is you can go up into a plank on hands, again keeping the shoulder blades down, keeping the back flat, keeping the feet about hip width apart. If you want to make it easier, you can go a little wider. Now, a couple different fun ways you can do a plank is to do plank up downs, which you're shifting from your hands to your elbows, trying not to rock your hips too much. You can also do plank jacks. You see how I'm breathing during the plank jacks, how I'm going out, in, where my legs are going with the rhythm of my breath? That's exactly how you want to do all core workouts. Make your breath go in sync and in rhythm with the moves. Okay, next plank move is a side plank. This one, if you want to add a little twist with it, you can hit those obliques just to give you a little more fit and trim in the side love handle area. But I'm going to start from beginner to advanced. So beginner side plank, you want to tuck this bottom knee, bring it in line with your body. You want to bring your forearm flat to the ground. We're not looking for sideways, we want flat. Keep the top knee straight, and then bring your opposite hand in front of you just to help you, and you're gonna do little dips. Lift, dip back down. Very basic side plank dip. If you want to hold it, you can bring this arm up and lift. So you see how I still have 3 points of contact with my knee, my foot, and my arm? Or, getting too advanced, you can take that top leg over the bottom one, lift all the way up, make sure that hip is away from the ground. You could add in dips. You see how I'm shaking? I haven't done these planks in a long time, but to have a strong core, this is a key to it. And then to add in obliques, you would twist, still keeping that spine in neutral. Exhale during the twist. So the next move is a good core activation muscle involving all of the hip muscles to make sure everything is firing appropriately. Half the time when you do these moves, your spine won't be in neutral or you won't be able to find the proper form because the muscles simply aren't working when they're supposed to be. The glutes are very good at turning off at just the time you need them to, similarly to when you see someone bending from the low back to pick something off the ground versus doing a proper squat technique. This is a super functional exercise called bridges, and I make sure every patient that comes to me for physical therapy is able to do this, as this is really helpful as we age for longevity and functional mobility and all of those good things. So you want to start with the ankles directly underneath the knees. You want to roll your shoulders back, tuck your shoulder blades into the floor, resting your hands. And you want to dig into the heels, squeeze the glute muscles, and you want to peel the low back off the floor, keeping the glutes squeezed, the back of the thigh hamstrings, and the core nice and tight as you lift, lift, lift. And then nice and slow, resting back down, relax everything. And then retighten, lift the hips, and relax. This is something that everybody should be able to do before they do any core exercises, as this is simply a muscle setting functional exercise. Next exercise I want to show you is called leg lifts. So you want to lie flat on your back. You want to bring the feet up, point the toes, keeping the arms next to you or out to the side. You want to keep your low back perfectly flat against the floor. We don't want you to arch. You never want to be able to slide your hand underneath your low back. You want that low back pressed to the floor as well as you can. You want to keep the legs really tight and nice and solid, and you want to drop. Inhale at the top and exhale at the bottom. You can see that I'm shaking with this one. You should be shaking. This one is very tough. You can also see with all of these, I'm taking my time. The slower and steady you go, the better core you will have. This is not a game of speed. This is not a game of reps. You just want to do every motion with deep intention and deep meaning to use the core. A tip that I think most people forget to give is that while you're doing core exercises, think about your abs. Think about using them, picture in your brain that you're squeezing them, because when you don't do that, you don't tend to actually use the muscles, and it can actually put a strain on your low back and the front of your hips. So make sure that you're using all of your brain power to think of your abs. Now, there is also a chance when you do these for the very first time or a couple times, you'll feel it heavily in the hip flexors, and that's totally fine. Usually most of our hip flexors are stronger than our core, but eventually your core will start to take over and you'll feel them more in your abs than you do in your hips. Next core exercise is called dead bug. All of my patients love this one simply for the name, but it's also super functional in terms of using the core for stability instead of crunches. So you want to start by, and there are plenty of ways to do this, by the way, this is just the one I usually use. You want to start by bringing the legs up, bending at the knees. You want to push that low back into the floor again, and you're going to go opposite limb to drop. So I'm going to use my left leg and my right arm, and I'm going to drop both of them. Exhale, bring it back up, and the other side. You can see I'm shaking again. And I've been doing these moves forever and I still shake when I do them. So that just goes to show you, you should always make sure you're giving it the most of your ability and breathing. Similar to dead bug, these are called bird dogs. I don't know why they keep using insects and animals, but you want to go back to this tabletop position. This is another really good core exercise. Find neutral spine with your back, so not too far arched, not too far hunched. And you're going to start by lifting your leg back, squeeze that glute back there, and then dropping. This is the beginner version right here. Lift. As you lift, you don't want to turn towards that limb. You want to keep your back totally flat, almost like you're shoving your heel into the back wall. And the advanced version is to lift the back leg, lift the opposite arm, gazing downward the whole time. And certainly you can make any of those more difficult by adding weight, adding an unstable surface like a Bosu ball or a foam pad, anything like that. You can change up the variables to make more difficult. But for the sake of keeping it simple, that's all I got for you today. Let me know what you think of those moves, and if you have not yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, make sure you click the red button below so that you're the first to know when our next video drops. Let me know what you guys think. I hope you found value in this, and thank you so much for watching.